All right. Good morning, everyone. Again, we're going to start today with cost management for practical project managers. And I'm going to be talking about a lot today and next week. I'm going to be rounding up next week. So I'm going to need your full attention. A couple of things that we're going to be looking at today. As project managers, one of your biggest KPI is going to be cost. Managing managing cost. We've talked about the triangle of scope, schedule, and cost. Those three things, triangular, if anything affects one, it affects, most likely it affects the other. So those are the three core areas you will be working as project managers. Of course, you'll be managing people, managing situations, circumstances, managing people, stakeholders, your clients, your team, the people that you report to, and there are a lot of people to manage. And I think we did talked about that in the very first session about stakeholders, and we look at the stakeholders, power grid, talking about the level of interest that each stakeholder in the project, and you as a project manager must be aware of the different people who affect your project directly and indirectly. So today, we're going to look at cost management, and we're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to talk about forecasting. We're going to look at cost tracking. We'll look at some case studies, examples, and we'll look at some spreadsheets that I built for tracking cost, one or two different kind of cost template. We're also going to look at cost reporting. We're also going to look at change order. So a whole lot of things that go around cost that we're going to be looking at this week and next week. So please do pay attention. Okay, let's get started. So why does this really matters? So every project has a budget and not just a schedule. Every project has a budget. Just 1 minute, please. TDDD. Trying to bring up something here. Just 1 minute. All right. Mm. Mhm. Okay. Okay. I will just get going. I'm trying to do something, but it's not working here. All right. So every project has a budget, not just a schedule. When cost spirals out of control, trust the road first, and the business case that justify the project in the first place falls apart. Cost management is what lets you say clearly and confidently we're on track or we're off track. And yeah, you know, everything we do, most of the time, it's all about the Benjamin, as they say. It's all about the bottom line. It's all about the profit. Of course, there are some projects that are non-profit projects. Even at that, cost is still uh, important because if maybe a government project is what we are doing, it's a non-profit project, but government work within constraint is even more, you know, more serious when it's even a government project or NGO project because more than often a budget has been allocated to finish that project, and if you're not able to stay within that course, most likely that project is not going to finish, or it's going to cause trouble, or a lot of because there are a lot of stakeholders that were involved, and it's going to be a big trouble. So cost is really important, and it's a big KPI that you'll be measured at the end of the project. So because if there's no money, nothing happens. You know, I'm saying imagine your project is approved for 50,000 from day one. Stakeholder and sponsor expect you to show where money goes and whether you finish. We need that amount. Simple, consistent cost practice give you the ability. You don't need complex tools. So, the truth is that when it comes to cost management, you want to make things as simple as possible. You don't want to complicate how you manage your costs. Make it so simple. Make it transparent, so that easy to understand for yourself and for the people who are working with you. And you have to find a way to make reporting very, 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 very easy. We're seeing that cost overruns, quickly reduce stakeholders' trust. It's all about trust, basically. It's all about trust. When you begin to come back, oh, we need more money, and even if you have justification for it, trust is being eroded. Yes, one of the things that we want to start with, first of all, the budget was first laid out, we must have convinced the people who are able to finish with this budget. Now, yes, things happen in the project, you know, uh, that make things changes. So if it's something that's coming from the stakeholders, okay, fine and good. But if it's coming from your team, then you have a lot of explanation to do. And when you get to that point, trust is already eroded. So you want to be very strict on cost management, and those are the things we're going to be talking about uh, in this training here. So we have the cost management cycle. It's a continuous one, not a one-time spreadsheet. You'll find out it runs in a loop from planning through closeout. So now, first of all, you need to plan your cost. Plan your cost. This is where budgeting comes in. You want to know how the money is going to be spent. That's where planning comes in. How we're going to spend this money. Uh, and when we say how we're going to spend the money, the project is going to last over 12 months. How is that money going to go over that 12 months? How do we approve costs? How do we approve expenses on the project? How am I going to be track? How am I going to track it? Those are planning things. You start from it. So you have to sit down from the beginning plan. How am I going to report cost on this project? So all of that is what we call planning. So estimate budget. So, under the plan, how am I going to do my budget? What method am I going to use to do my budget? All of those goes into what? Into planning. So that's what plan cost actually means. You sit down, how am I going to come up with my budget? When I get the budget, how am I going to report? How we're going to spend the money? How we're going to be tracking the cost? How am I going to be forecasting? You plot all of the plan, yeah, and you estimate your budget, you set your baseline, when we talk about setting baseline, so baseline is basically your budget, plan over a period of time. When you match budget to schedule, then we call it what? Cost baseline. So we have budget and because what they call the cost baseline. Cost baseline is how the money is going to spend over that budget is going to be spent over a period of time. Is what they call the cost baseline. Track actuals. So you begin to track actual money you are spending against what you are planned to spend. Or we plan to spend 20,000 a year. Now we are spending 15,000 or we are spending 25,000. So you are tracking actuals and you are checking the variances. So that's where the control variances comes in. So, if you are seeing differences, negative differences, things that are higher than what you have planned, you want to start asking questions. Why am I having these variances? What is happening? Is a question that you start ask, and you have to investigate, get to the root of why you're having that variances, and you want to see it's something that is you can control or you can stop if it's coming from your team, and if from the client, then we want to start talking about change order, asking for more money from the client. So each state fits the next. A weak estimate produces a poor baseline. Basically, a poor baseline makes variance analysis meaningless. So I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. Like, if you have not developed a very, very good budget, then whatever you're comparing to at the end of the day it won't make any sense. If something should have cost $1 million and you have estimated it as what as $600,000. So the reality is that when you begin to do the job, you are going to spend that $1 million. Then you now begin to compare. $1 million to 600,000 that you have budgeted. The truth is that you have made a wrong budget from the start. So issues they become glaring to you. You obviously now see that you make a wrong budget. So you don't want to be in that position as a project manager. That's why budget is a very, very important aspect of your work as a PM, because once the budget has been agreed, depending on the nature of the project, it might be a difficult one. Uh, Organizations sometimes do projects that you know that run into the negative. They will know from the beginning that it's going to be in the negative, and all of those are for administrative reasons. Maybe they just need to get that project just to announce themselves. So they will bite the negative aspect of that cost. But you as a project manager must be aware of such, so that you don't fight an unnecessary battle. I've done several projects that are not profitable. Obviously, it was a loss. Of course, from the beginning, the um approvers of the project, the management already knows there's going to be a negative. But like I said, there are reasons why they take up such project. So they take up that project so that they can also get into the market, so the people can start seeing them that, okay, oh. But most of the time, when you go for bidding a project, one of the things that you put in your proposal is your experience. Where you have done the project, you have to put, okay, you have done for this company A, for company B, for company C. So some company will just bid, so low, and it's going to be negative. They won't make profit just because they needed to get the project to at least start showing something that, okay, which we are doing now. We're able to do this kind of project. We have done it for company A, company B. And from that, the company will start growing. Uh, those kind of costs is what we call cost of doing business. We call it cost of doing what? Cost of doing business. So you must be aware of this as a PM. Uh, so if you have a bad budget, then your variance analysis uh, won't make any sense anymore. So please must get this very right. So cost is linked to scope and schedule. Just let me turn a bit. You cannot plan cost in vacuum. It's a function of scope, time, and resources. I've said that. Your cost is linked to schedule, is linked to what? To scope. The more the scope, the more the money. And the reduction in scope, reduction in cost. It's as simple as that. So you must have a good understanding of scope. That's why we started from the scope. We moved to schedule. You must have a good understanding of your scope, and you have a good understanding of the schedule. And if you're a non-technical person, of course, we are working with the technical people, to have a full understanding of the scope, the schedule. Then you put a cost together. So we have talked about work breakdown structure, WBS. So what? So if you remember again, WBS is what breaking down your work, into manageable tasks, and when you group them together, related tasks together, it comes what we call WBS. So it defined word, sorry, what needs to be done, the foundation of any cost. So basically, where your cost estimates start is your WBS. After you've understood your scope, you build the WBS. WBS again, work breakdown structure. All that needs to be done to get the job done. You have grouped them. You've listed them. So the foundation of where you begin to build your cost is your WBS. So if you are not able to build a WBS well, you will not get your cost right. Schedule. So schedule will now establish when work happens and how long it will take. Resource plan, and then who does the work, at what role, and rate turning effort into dollars. So these are the things that are going to be needed to do your course. So you must have your WBS. From your WBS, you build your schedule, because usually you use the WBS to build your schedule, and resource plan. Resource-based plan basically means who are the people working on the job, when are they going to be available, because a resource might not be available, every time of the year. So you have to plan your resource. On some of my projects in the office right now, we have, there's a lot of resource planning going on. Like I think I discussed this last week or 2 weeks ago about when it comes to employing new staff in a company, a lot of discussions go into it, um, because resources are limited, and you can't say because you get a new project or you just want to go and bring in people. You want to see, okay, can we manage our calendar such that the resource we have right now can still do the other project that we just got. But if it's not possible, you can bring in new resource. And most of the time, they might bring in. That's why contract staff usually comes in, because they don't need you for a long time. Because usually because there's a project that comes in, so they bring you in as a contract staff, such that when you are finished executing the project, they let you go. Some companies, you know, they might not even take you as a contract, they take you as a full staff, knowing fully well that your project might only last 2 years. And after that 2 years, if there's no extra project, they let you go. And by way of interview, this is one of the questions you must ask at the interview stage. When you get to that point where they ask you to, they say, do you have any questions? When they ask you, do you have any questions, please, one of the questions you should ask, and you have to be very confident about this, and it shows you as an experienced person, is to ask them how busy they are. Ask them how busy they are. Ask them specifically, so what kind of project are they involved in? How long are those projects? So do they see themselves having projects in the next 5 years that keeps the company going for the next 5 years? And from if you ask that question, there's no way about it. You know straightforward that this company has work for you or not. Because in this part of the world, nobody lies. Because if they lie to you, something can actually sue them in when it comes to you can sue them. So you'll find a way, they'll find a way, they'll find a way to dribble you. Oh yes, but you will get the answer straight away. Oh, we have some project, but now that will last us. We have some project that's going on now, but we are still looking at getting some other project. When they start taking things like that, you already know that this company might not have something for you after 1 or 2, 3 years. So you need to start planning your course. There's a big question you need to ask during the interview stage. How busy the company is, what project are they involved in, how long are those projects, so do they have project that will sustain them for the next 5 years. Please, it's important to ask those questions as a project person. Okay, so the output, so the time phase, resource, informed budget, you can actually manage. So when you have your work plan structure, your schedule, you have your resources you're going to be using, then you can build a cost plan, because you need your schedule, you need your resource, WBS to build all of the costs. And I'm going to walk through some examples here. Yeah. So for a new company website, once you know the tax and the duration, you design people and daily rates, then the math is straightforward. I have another slide, and we are going to walk through an example for a company website. Hopefully, yeah. So let's start this. What is cost planning? So cost planning is about deciding, before spending begins, how you will estimate. I think I said it at the beginning, how you budget, track, report cost. Estimate, draw the budget, how are you going to track it, and you're going to report it. It's a governance layer that keeps spending intentional and visible. Every small project benefits from a basic cost management approach. A one-page cost plan is infinitely better than no plan at all. A lot of project managers make this error. I see this in my company. I work in a project management office. So basically, we have a dedicated project management, we call it PMO, project management office. We have a lot of different, because my company you have about 8 or 9 different divisions. So, and different project managers work in different divisions, manage different projects. So I kind of we kind of moderate all of those project managers for some threshold of project that hit a particular threshold, or if they have multiple divisions working on the project, then it comes to my office for me to manage it. So when I see this individual, I'm talking to these individual project managers, technical project managers, you see a lot of mistakes, and they don't see the benefit in them sitting down doing a cost planning. And at the end of the day, you see the consequence of you not doing your cost planning when you begin to have variances, and when you begin to go over the budget, and you are not able to even justify it, because you can't even go back to the client to ask for more money. And so, because that's what will eventually happen, especially if your project is a lean project. When I say lean project, that the cost is very lean, you will surely see the effect of you not planning your cost very well. People will spend money anyhow, and of course, you'll be the one to explain this as a project manager. So, three key decisions that you must consider when you want to do your cost planning. So, cost category. Basically, we want to define what bucket costs fall into. We talk about labor, material. There's a question that I think Elder asked last week. So about the different kind of resource, we're having a project. Talk about labor, talk about equipment, talk about materials. So when it comes to cost, you must understand what kind of categories your cost fall into. Is it labor? Is IT project, software, hardware, you know, travels, vendors, contingencies. So different kind of costs. You look at your project and what kind of how am I going to group this cost? Where does this cost goes to? Because all of this is going to define how you're going to do your budget. You must understand the cost categories that is involved in the nature of your project. Agree on who can authorize spending and what threshold before any money moves. This is very, very important. Usually in the project charter. Usually, most companies really, sometimes they might not do a project charter, but you can take advantage of this done in your cost planning, whereby you want to understand, okay, what level of approvals. If I'm going to write off a cost, usually organizations usually have their rules for things like that. Who's going to write off this cost? And so you must understand the level of approvals. Um, and your team must also understand if a particular level of money must be spent, there must be an approval process, you know, for different level of money. So you plan all of these at the beginning, and everybody is aware of it. Reporting cadence said how often cost status will be reviewed and shared weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. So depending on your client, the client might want to see a cost report weekly, monthly. But even if the client does not ask for cost reporting, internally, you need to have that agree on how you want to report your cost. It's very, very important. Um, yeah, very, very important. I tell people, please, depending on the level of your project, review your cost on a weekly on a weekly basis. This is very important. If it's a very big project, that's the only project you are sitting on, you are doing, maybe okay, of course, it's a daily thing that you must, and people are working daily. So it might be a daily thing for you looking at your cost. But in terms of reporting, it can be reporting daily. So reporting will be like a weekly reporting for that kind of project. But on daily basis, you are checking how cost is growing on your project. So we must agree on that. So types of project cost. So we have the labor. We know about it. We have materials and equipment. I mentioned this last week. Question that asked. Uh, Software licenses for IT projects. You know, if your project is going to be using licenses, of course, you're going to pay, so you need to take note of that. Travel and training. If people are going to be traveling on your project, you must categorize that course. And when you talk about traveling, one of you must, know about traveling, that there be a course for the traveling, whether they are going to go by flight or they're going to use the company truck. So if you're going to use the company truck, you have to account for that company truck. What's the cost of that truck per day? What fuel that truck is going to use? That's another cost that's associated with traveling. And again, because the guys are traveling that day, it's still part, even though they are not working, you're still going to pay them for that day for that traveling. So because it's always like that. And usually, like if the traveling is 1 day travel, usually even though they are traveling 2 3 hours, you have to pay them for that day. So you account for the cost of their rate for that day, and you also take account of the fact that they're going to travel back. So that's 2 days now of their, and you're going to pay them the same rate, you know. And some company might have a different rate for travel days, but you must take account of that. So, and if training is required, What are the costs of training? Vendor outsourcing. So usually third party. Uh, if you're going to talk using third party, usually third party, most of the time when we do third party uh, for time and material kind of cost. So when I say time and material, basically as the cost is being spent, you are reporting to the client, oh, last week we worked for 30 hours, we spent these, we use this kind of third party. You report it to the client sees it, and you're going to bill the client based on what you have agreed on the rate. So for third party, when it comes to third party, if the third party is the one doing the job for you, so if the third party bill you 100,000, you're going to get the invoice of that 100,000 that the client bill you, and you're going to send it to the client. But you have to now, you bill the client at cost, maybe 10% plus cost. So most of the time it's 10% plus cost. Most of the time, almost of my, it's only maybe in rare cases I've seen 15%. So if the client is billing you 100,000, you see their invoice, you now add your own 10%. That's your own administrative cost of using that using that vendor. So it's 1.1 times whatever the third party has billed you for the job you outsource. So and you must show the evidence of the invoice to the client. They bid me on. So that's cost. You must be very, very transparent when it comes to costs. So if the third party bid you 100,000, you must show the client that, oh, see, they charge us 100,000. So you send it to them as an evidence. Then the client is going to pay you 110,000. That is a 10% extra for your own administrative cost. So that's how vendor. But yourself have now to be, because the vendor is reporting to you right now. You are like now the client to the vendor now. So they have to prove to you. You have to find out. There's something called the vendor management. Vendor management. You have to manage that vendor. Make sure that the 100,000 they are billing you is correct. They are checking their time. So they are going to prove to you that the 100,000 is correct. So there's a lot of work yourself you have to do, so that you don't want a situation whereby the end client is the one catching something that you should have caught, in the vendor's invoice. They are looking at it and they're asking questions and you cannot explain. So that's not a good thing. So vendor contractor management is a key part of your work as a project manager. You must pay attention to the work they are doing. You must review their invoice they send to you. Everything must be usually, if they are working on daily basis, they are sending you their report on daily basis. Okay, this is the number of people that work on today. This is what we did, and you are taking note of that. So at the end of the day, you have a report from the vendor every day, and you have a cost that you've estimated based on what they are submitting to you every day. So you already have an idea of what the invoice should be that you should get. You already have an idea already. This is what I should expect. So when there's a variance between what you have estimated and calculated based on the report you received, then that's the starting point of your question to the vendor. I'm expecting you to send me $50,000. Why are you sending me 60,000? Then you look at your report, compare their report, and you try to kind of clarify that area. So please, vendor management is very important. Contingency. Okay, a deliberate buffer for identifying risks, not a slush fund, but the planned safety net. So there's something called contingency. This is very, very, very important. Usually when you are doing a lump sum project, that, we bid for this project, we're going to do for $1 million, and the client has agreed, they give $1 million. It's your duty to go and do for $1 million. It's not a time and material. $1 million, they'll give you a $1 million. Time and material job, even though we will submit a proposal, we're going to do for what? $1 million. But it does not mean that we're going to spend the whole of that $1 million. That's our time and material, because we'll be submitting invoices to you based on what we have done. We'll show all of the rates, all what we spend on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, we'll invoice for that. So at the end of the project, and usually happen like this on time and material, more than often you don't spend all of the money, or you might spend above. When you spend above the money, then you do a change order, because there must be a reason for it, especially if it's coming from from the client. But for a lump sum, you get the whole of your money. So now left for you to manage the cost. If you go over budget, you're on your own, except there's a good justification for it. So for lump sum project, contingency is very, very important. And even not for lump sum project, even for time and material project, when you are building your budget, you must build in contingency. We call it a buffer for certain risks that uh, that maybe you've identified. If, for example, we have estimated, okay, we're going to do this work for 50,000, maybe if we're going to do it for 4 days, three people are going to work on it, and those three people, they cost $100 per day, and you calculate everything based on those three people and their rates per day, everything comes to like $5,000. You might plan, okay, something might just happen that might cause a delay or something happen. So you put like a contingency. Usually that contingency is like 10%. 10%, whatever you have calculated, 55,000, you get the 10% of that, 500, you add it to it. So it's called contingency. You build into your cost. So that gives you some wiggle room in case something happens, you know, you are able. So contingency is something that you must plan for, and usually like 10%. So you look at the risk surrounding the job and you put that contingency into your, you don't show your client that this is a contingency fund. It's already built in, something that's internally we know that this is a contingency. And I'm going to show us an example of something. One of my projects will be contingencies, and um, and one of the things I'll tell you again, that when begin to compare your cost, one of the things that you don't want to deceive yourself is that when you begin to compare what you are spending, your actual spend, against what you have budgeted, you have to remove the contingency away. I repeat that again. If you have budgeted 5,000 and we now put a contingency of 10%, that's 500. So the total budget is 5,500. Now, when you want to start comparing cost, you need to take that 500 away, put it on a separate line, take it away. The comparison you will be doing will be against the 5,000. Don't be doing a comparison against the contingency. Don't forget what contingency is for. Contingency is for, should something happen. You understand? That is what the contingency is for. So you will be giving yourself false impression when you're comparing your actual spend against the budget that includes the contingency. That's a false comparison. So because 500 is a contingency, it's not part of what I expect to spend. I do not expect to spend it. I'm not expected to spend it. It's just something I've created into the budget to give myself wiggle room. Should for some reason that 5,000 I budgeted, we overspent it. At least we know that, okay, we have a $500 that that's going to give us that buffer. So, and I'll show you. I have something that I will show us. Something that one of my projects that I'm still working on currently. How the budget is built, and how we kind of separate contingencies from. You don't do that. Yeah, a lot of people do that, and I tell people they are just not deceiving yourself. Putting comparing contingency, using contingency as part of your variance analysis, it's going to give you a false variance, right? All right. Okay. A simple approach. Start with activities already. So how do you start? Building your cost. Start with the activities. Define your schedule. I tell you, your WS, you build your schedule. For you to really do a proper cost, you must use your schedule to build uh, your cost. And schedule basically, I tell you, it gives you when you sit down to build your schedule with the technical people, it gives you an understanding of the project. Schedule is what makes you to understand the project, even though you're not knowledgeable. By the time you sit down and the guys begin to build the schedule, we're going to do this, after, because schedule requires some thinking, some art, some science, linking this, or this will start for this must finish before we can start this. So it gives you a good idea of what the project is when you sit down to build your schedule with the technical people. It makes you to understand, and from there you start building your cost. So for activity, 3 questions. I'll put those in bold for you. Who is doing it? How long will it take? Who is doing it? Instead, I told you a carpenter one. Some example I used some 2 3 weeks ago. If it's a carpenter one, carpenter two, carpenter three, don't forget that those categories of carpenters have different costs. So you must understand who is doing it. Because who is doing it is going to determine a particular amount of cost. How long will it take? You understand? What is their daily or hourly rate? How much rate? So those are the kind of things you must know. So multiply effort by a rate to get labor cost, then layer in fixed. These are just English, and I'll show them in practical terms. So basically, this person is doing it. The rate is $100 per hour, and it's going to do it for 3 days. So if it's $100 per hour, that means and his work is going to work 8 hours a day. That means it's going to be $800 in that for a day. Then for 3 days, $800 per times three. That's $2,400 dollars for those 3 days. So basically, that's how you build. So it's simple, just very simple to how you begin to build your cost. And of course, you must have broken all of the activities down because it's activities you are looking at, activities, and those activities will roll up to a particular level of the WBS. I'm going to show us an example here. So a quick example here, what I just explained right now. 3 days work, one business analyst is going to do that job. So, and maybe it's $300 per day. The business, so the business analyst is paid $300 per day. So what that means is that it's going to be $900 for those 3 days. You're buying training materials, for that project, for that particular activity. So there's a quote for that. It's $1,500. Once you have estimate for all activity, roll them up by work package, then by phase, and you have the foundation of your budget. And so building a course is just, you need to go to the level of activities you have built on your schedule, and you begin to build up from there. Right. A rough course roll up, just some this one. Doesn't need to be perfect. If it needs to be structured, defensible, and good enough to form the starting. Here's what a simple work package estimate might look like. So, for example, I have this work package, design home page, content creation, stock images, hosting, year one, this like websites kind of stuff. So I'm saying for that work package, designer who's going to design is going to design for 3 days at $300 per day. Person that's creating content, you're going to do it for 5 days at $300 per day. License bundle, it's $300. Hosting of the website, it's $600. So this just, how you build costs. And this is something we do ourselves, even at home when we are, just you trying to do something, you want to build a house, you want to buy a car, you want to do a party for your daughter, you're going to pick your pen or you go to your Excel. Just that way you build costs, you bring it up. So basically, it's that same kind of ideology that you use in building your course. All right. It's just a starting point. You will add contingency, refine estimate, and scope is confirmed. Distribute costs across the timeline to create your baseline. Don't worry. We're going to touch all of this little by little. Contingency and reserves. Okay. Okay. The last time I mentioned about slush fund, I said contingency fund is not slush fund. There's something called slush fund when you're working on the project. And slush fund, most likely what happened is for when you're working on a project and you've beat your budget and you say, well, okay, this budget is going to be $1 million. And maybe out of that $1 million, your contingency, you build in contingency of 100,000 into it. Because maybe your actual budget is 900,000, and you work out your contingency to be 100,000 just for argument's sake. Now, the client you are working for can actually say, okay, this is going to be $1 million. The client might not be like, hey, can we add 200,000 to this project? 200,000 to this project to make it 1.2. Do you know why the client is asking you to do that? Perhaps the client also, most of the time, maybe they are working for another client that they have to get budget for. And to get budget might be very, very difficult when money is being overspent. So one of the good things that project manager does is that they usually try to see if they can have a slush fund. So that slush fund basically is something that you just keep somewhere. Should anything happen, something happen, then we don't have to go through the approval process because it might take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to get approval, for any extras or if we need more money or maybe something happen. So it is not contingency. Contingency is something that you have built on your own side. Slush fund is more or less as something the client might ask you to just, let's just put this one aside. So in case things still happen, okay, after we have even spent our contingency fund, that might not be, your client might not even be aware of basically. Now the slush fund might be there, okay, please, let's take out of this slush fund. Of course, before you can take slush fund, there must be a lot of explanation you give to the person who is going to approve that slush fund. So contingency money is not slush fund. Now, so usually on the management side, so I call that okay. I say contingency reserve, extra money set aside for identify risk. I've explained that. you have name, assets, and the size of fund managed by the project manager, typically between 5 to 15%. Estimated cost depend on the uncertainty level. So usually it's between that 5 to 15%. They want to go more than what? More than that. So there's something now called the management reserve. It's separate buffer held by the project sponsor for unknown. So usually that's what we call the sludge fund. You understand? The management word reserve. So you might use another name for that management word, management reserve. So that cooling have been predicted require formal approval or to access. So usually you won't have this as a project. You might not even know about it. You might not even know about it. So, but if you are really the one building the budget, sometimes they'll give you a budget. No, this project, this is the budget, and they'll tell you how the budget have improved, and you manage it. But if you are the one coming with the budget yourself, you might want to ask yourself: are we building management? But usually, for most of the level we'll be working with, you might not be putting what that management reserve into it. Most of the time, management reserve comes from the person that is giving you the project. Usually, they will have a management reserve for the project. I just needed us to know and know this. If your company is one that is the real owner of the project, and you have contractors working for you, the contractors, they will have submitted all kind of budget that they're going to use proposals, and a proposal, we're going to do this project for $2 million. And of course, you have to now go and get approval. So in getting your approval, you will not be getting approval for $2 million. You have to really sit down and put into consideration the need for a management reserve. Yeah, this guy says $2 million. Can I get a management reserve of about $500,000 extra or $1 million extra? You have to build that into your. You don't just go to your sponsors and just ask for the exact money. That's not wisdom. It is good for you to get that budget, and if you don't finish it, that is fine. At least not to finish the money, but the project is done. It's better than for you to not to have money to complete the project. So this is very important. So know the difference between the contingency reserve and the management reserve, please. It's very important as you grow in your career. So just a little example, estimated cost is 20,000. So because of certain risk we identify, we add 10% contingency. So the approved budget will be 22,000. So the management reserve is not something that is in your control. It's not something that is in your control. But if you begin to go top, you will begin to understand. You begin to have access to management reserves, or you might be the one controlling it. But at this level, usually it should not be part of the budget that we approve for you. They've approved the budget for $22,000, but at the back end, usually there'll be some management reserve for project. And so when you go for more money, they know they have money, but they're going to ask you a lot of questions. At the end of the day, when they approve your justification for more money you're asking for, usually it comes from these management reserves. It comes from management reserve. God help you that the money you're asking for is beyond the management reserve. That'll be some level of something great must have happened. Okay, from estimate to budget and cost baseline. Once your estimates are complete, you aggregate them into a project budget, and then distribute that budget over time to create the cost baseline. The baseline is the yardstick you track against throughout the execution. I think I've explained baseline for us again. So baseline is budget spread over time. The budget is $1 million, but in January you are going to spend 100,000. In February 200,000. In February 50,000. In April 80,000. Or in June you're going to spend 500,000. Or in July, spread over the period that project is going to last is what we call the cost baseline. You have your budget, but we now spread that cost over a timeline. We call it your cost baseline. Okay, so estimated cost was contingency reserve. So estimate your cost, get your contingency reserve. It's 5% based on the level of uncertainty. It could be 10, it could be 15. So budget distributed by month or phase is called cost baselines. Please take note of that. Budget distributed by month phase is over the timeline is what we call the cost baseline. So for example, we have a project, 600,000 over 4 months. Month 1, we're going to month 1 to 2, design and configuration is $40,000. In month 3, testing and training, we're going to spend $15,000. In month 4, we're going to go live, do our care, $5,000. So this is what we call the baseline. Basically, you're distributing the money over the cost of the period that project is going to be executed. That is what your cost baseline is. Okay. And when it comes to your cost reporting, cost performance, you're checking your cost performance, this is what you're going to be using. This month we said we're going to spend uh, in months 1 and 2, we say we're going to spend $40,000. So how much did you really spend? Oh, we spent $50,000. Why did you spend $50,000 when we say we're going to spend it doesn't mean that, really, it does not mean you're over budget. So but you have to start checking. So then the schedule now comes in. And that's like, okay, what have we done with the $50,000? We're going to talk about this under end value management when we're going to check our cost reporting and tracking. We're going to see the value of this. So because it could mean that, if we are spending $50,000, and what that means is that you have actually done the work of 50,000. What that means is that you're actually ahead of schedule. Cost tells you if you are behind schedule or ahead of schedule. So you can use actually cost to determine whether you're behind schedule or ahead of schedule. So because $40,000 of work in 2 months, that's what we have said we're going to do. But we have not done 50,000. If truly you have done 50,000 worth of work, that means you're actually ahead of schedule in 2 months. So you can see the logic of how cost helps you to explain whether you're behind schedule or outside schedule. Or it could be that, we said we're going to spend $40,000 in a month for this, design and configuration. And at the end of the 2 months, we have still not finished with design and configuration, but we have spent $50,000. What does that tell you? It tells you straight away that you're behind schedule because you have not finished design configuration. So in 2 months, you can see that, and we are spending more than 50,000. So it tells you that you're over budget straight away. And but we're going to look at some examples to make it very clear. So that, please, if you have any questions as I'm speaking, I think I'm a bit fast this morning because I have a lot to cover. But please stop me on the track if you are confused. Okay, Rising, please go ahead. Your question, please.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So when we are talking about contingency, so it's clear that it is for the identified risk. That is what we want. So that means those risks must happen before we can say we want to touch that contingency fee. So maybe at the end of the project and those risks didn't happen. So what happened to contingency fee? Is it like as a contractor that is doing the project, you have to return the money back to the client? Or is it added to part of your profit if those risks never happened? And from what you said, we know the contingency is determined by the level of the risk, either between 5 to 15%. But how do they determine management reserves, which is for unknown risk? So is there a parameter to use also to get the funding for unknown risk? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very, very good question. So for the first question, in terms of the contingency money, if you are done with your project and the project is well managed and you didn't touch the contingency reserve, are you going to return the money back to the client? It depends on the kind of contract you have with the client. So if it's a lump sum contract, and there's an example I'm going to show us. We have submit proposal of $10,000 to the client. Lump sum means we are going to do this I'm going to build this house for you for $500,000. A front garage for $500,000. That budget of $400,000 they are showing you, they will break it down. They might even break it down, tell you door, these, foundation, these, and everything amounts to $500,000. In those costs you are seeing, contingency is already built in. They won't show you. So first of all, you who is paying for it, you're not going to see it. So it is for us who are me doing the project. I know that I have my contingency built into my cost. So you won't see it. So what does that mean is that, but it's a lump sum project, I'm going to pay you for 500,000, maybe on milestone. When you finish foundation, we pay you this. When you finish this, we pay the level one. When you finish level two, we pay you this. And when we close out, we pay you this. So your contingency is part of all of those money. So you are getting it. So it's part of your profit for a lump sum what, for a lump sum project. So straight away, it's part of your what, uh, of of your profit for a lump sum project. Now for unit pricing project and uh, uh, time and material project. Most of the time, you won't get you it's not the money that will come to you, because the way time and material works and unit pricing works is that we have proposed that we're going to do this thing for 500,000. That's what we proposed. Like I said, it does not mean at the end of the day we are going to invoice for the whole 500,000. That's the way most of the time the unit pricing and sorry, time and material, yes, works. So because what happened is that as you are doing the work, uh, we are submitting invoices on monthly basis. If that's the way you agree with the client, we spend 100 hours, we've used this equipment, and we've used this vendor. This is what everything comes up this month. You submit it. You are submitting. At the end of the project, maybe the project is $1 million. By the time you finish the project, the money might be 900,000. Now, part of that $1 million, what happens is that part of that $1 million, what happens is that contingencies. Uh, Now, okay, thank you for that question. I need to explain this because there are two ways to handle this. Now, I have two projects that I've done this in. How will I explain this so that I don't confuse us? Um, okay, so uh, I'll be lovely to show us. I don't my work here. I'll get something later. Now, if I'm trying to get a simple project, let's say an engineering project, whereby is a consulting project whereby we build a client per time. So, for example, we are saying, okay, for consulting one, consulting two, just take that as an example, consulting three. For consulting one, we plan to spend 100 hours, and at this rate, and this is going to be the total. So, at the end of the day, for consulting one that we have budgeted, we are spending 100 hours. We might end up spending 120 hours. So if that 120 hours is justifiable, of course, we'll build the client. The client might not be too bothered that, okay, you said $100, but you are spent so 100 hours, but you are not spending 120 hours. They will not be too bothered, because what the client will be looking at the total cost of that project. If the total cost of that project is $1 million, and what you are invoicing now is 120,000, they will not be, even though the 120,000 is supposed to be 100,000, but you are billing 120,000, they will not be bothered. What you'll be looking at is the total what? Is the total 1 million what? $1 million that you guys have proposed you are going to do that job. They will not be bothered that you have spent 120 hours into 100 hours for consulting one. They won't be bothered. Now, what happened is that when we had been building our proposal, we will have building contingencies into that most of the time into our hours. So what we plan, maybe before we plan to spend, we say we're going to spend 100 hours, for example. Now, ideally, we will have thought in our mind that we should be able to do this for 80 hours. 80 hours, we'll do this and I'm exhausted. We'll now, okay, can we add some buffer into it? We'll now add a buffer of about what? About 20 hours, making it 100 hours. So what happened is that I might now just spend that 80 hours. I can only bill the client for 80 hours. Even though I have built in 20 hours as a contingency, and I've told the client that I'm going to spend 100 hours, but I end up spending 80 hours. Don't forget, because it's time and material, I can only bill the client for what? For the 80 hours. So that's how for time and material, most of the time you will not get the contingency. You only build in that contingency so that we don't want to overspend. We will spend 80 hours and we end up spending 85 hours or 100 hours. Who is going to pay for the extra 20 hours? Because the client has not even given you a PO that will cover 20 hours. It now becomes a problem for you. So what happens is that we're going to spend 80 hours. So we build a contingency of 20 hours, making it 100 hours. You understand what I mean now? So that is one way of doing that. So you built it what into it. So at the end of the day, you might end up spending the 100 hours and you might not spend it. If you spend the 100 hours, then of course you will get the contingency. The clients will not might not even know that's the contingency. They won't even know. You won't show you nobody. You don't even show it. You don't show it to the client. You don't tell the client contingency. You don't build. You don't put it. Nobody does that. You tell the client. But at the back end, we know that oh, this is supposed to be 80 hours. We have built in contingency. So we might end up spending it or not spend it. So for time and material, you might not get it if you don't spend it. But for lump sum, you will get it. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Does that
100%, sir.
so that's how it really was. So for lump sum, you of course definitely because, for example, you the what kind of work you do, sir, you build houses. This house after costing all the materials and everything, oh, this is going to be all the materials. Bare cost of the material will be 300,000. Labor, bare cost of labor is 100,000. So in after you have done your bare cost of what you are going to pay for material, pay for labor, you must now add your own contingency. What is the contingency? Maybe 10% of the bare cost. That is that. You will now, what now your profit is that what profit that I want to make from this job, 10% or 15%. You now do another 50%. Again, that be your profit. So you have what we call what? The contingency, the bare cost. That's the cost of paying for materials and paying for labors for building the house. You as a building contractor, you now have what you call your contingency fund that you have built. Should something happen, what if a contractor make a mistake or something happen in the project, you cannot come back to me and tell me you need more money. You can't, right? So that's where your contingency now comes in. Now you have your profit. So for that kind of job, the agreement you have with the client is that when I finish your foundation, you're going to pay me 100,000. It has no business. It doesn't know whether contingency is there. It doesn't know. That's it. So it's part of your own money, because it could be a give and take. Something could have happened and you will have used all of the contingency fund, and you could have even it might even eat out of your profit. So that's how business works. So in lump sum, you take it. But for our time and material job, what happened? That one, it's you are built in. You said we're going to spend. We know that we're going to do this job for 100,000, but because uh, of our contingency, we add additional 50,000. That's 150,000. And because we said time and material, we are building time and materials. So at the end of the day, you might not spend all of those things. You might not spend your contingency, and because you didn't spend it, you can't invoice it. So you don't get it if you don't spend it. If you spend it, you will get it. But if you don't spend it in time and materials, you don't what? You don't get it. So I think I'll just put that. That's it. I'll show us certain things again that captures that question. That's a very good question. Thank you so much, sir. The second question. Oh, what's the second question again, sir? I think I forgot.
But is there any parameter
Oh
to
yes.
establish the
Oh yes. Oh
management?
yes. Oh
Yes.
yes. So for management reserve, it's the company, like I said, for us, it's management that release. Usually we have in my own company for projects that we kind of execute. We have it's the policy most of the time. For depending on level of experience we have on that job, it might reduce our management reserve, because you have done that project over and over and over again. So management might just be 5%, it could be 2%, it could be 3%, because you are so done the job over time. You know all of the risks, uncertainties, and those uncertainties will have been built into the actual cost of doing the work. So your management reserve is so low because you expect that nothing will really go wrong. But for jobs that uh, uh, you know we're not so sure. So you see, they will build a grid, for high level of experience, maybe 5%. Middle level of experience of that job, might put that between 5 and 10. Oh, the job that we don't know so much about, it might put that between 15 and 20%. So in that matrix, you look where does that project fall into that matrix. We determine that manager. So usually it's based on the level of uncertainties that you know about that job. And usually companies have a policy of what percentage they should use, uh, 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 depending on the level of uncertainty. So basically, that's how it works. It's based on the level of uncertainty you know about the job. So you build it, because there are projects whereby You know from experience, you know that a lot of information that you expect to get from the client, you have not received from the client. If it's a government project or big contract, so you have to really, really build in your management reserve. You have to make it so big because things will happen, and usually getting funding is always a problem. So you don't want to start waiting and waiting. So when you have your managing reserve, you know you have a short buffer uh, that will cover any unforeseen event that might happen. So to answer your question very straight, yes, company will be the parameter. They have matrix, and that matrix is always based on the level of information that they have about that what level of information, level of experience, which determine the risk. You know, uh, yeah. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
You're welcome, sir. So, all right, tracking actual cost. So, when you want to track cost, actual labor, time sheet and effort report from team member, including internal staff, so vendor invoices, purchases. So you must. These are the things you track when you begin to track your cost. Labor. When you talk about labor, is the hours you are tracking. How many hours do they use to complete this work? You will have your budget you have developed already. We expect to spend 30 hours for this activity. But how many hours did they actually spend? You must document, you must track it. Vendor invoices, you must track it because vendors are giving you a quote. So, and a vendor is going to work for 5 months and they'll be submitting monthly invoices to you. So you are checking you're tracking their invoices they are submitting to you against the level of work they've completed. So you must check that also so that, to be sure that they are not exceeding their what you expect from them to invoice you. Purchases, what are we buying? So the cost of the things, you must document receipts. People are traveling, and they are spending money, they must submit the receipt of their expenses because those are things that you have to submit as a supporting document when you are going to invoice your end client. You have to get the vendor invoices will be a backup document. The client will ask for a backup document because most of the time, if you are doing a time and material, for example, uh, uh, time and material, for example, you have to submit your vendor invoices because usually the money you make on vendor invoices is very clear. There's no ambiguity about it. It's always man like 10%. Most of the time it's 10%. Standard in the industry that I've seen is 10%. So if the client is invoicing you 100,000, then you apply 10%. So the client wants to see the invoice of that client. So you can't hide anything in that. And there's not really nothing to hide. This guy billed me 100,000. This is the invoice. Please pay the 100,000 and give my own 10%. So that's how it works in the industry. Uh, so for lump sum project, you might not necessarily, you're not obligated to show that. You're not obligated to show that for I'm building a house. I don't need to show you that. Uh, Isaac. The people that build houses. If they show you, if Isaac should show you how much is for those houses that Isaac built, if they should come and show you how much they are buying materials, how much they are paying their contractors. You might for the now I'm just using Isaac here not because I'm just using an example because he's a builder, and this was something I was discussing in the last 1 or 2 weeks. I watch a lot of documentaries and on Canadian houses. I'm a realtor, and and honestly speaking, when we look at the cost of the house, you just know. And because I've also worked in a commercial and residential build here in Canada. I know that houses in Canada here is a rip-off. Is a total rip-off. They are ripping people off. Serious, serious rip-off. Serious rip-off. The same house you are buying for 600,000 here. Go to Saskatchewan, you buy the same house for 300,000, and you find out that the same labor rate that you pay in Saskatchewan, it might be when you're paying out, it's also in Calgary here. Sometimes it could vary. Yeah, it can really vary because of the environment, but most of the time is usually there's a standard. The difference is not so much. and the cost of materials is the same materials. It's still the same material. You understand? They're still using. So we find out that there's a serious ripoff from the builders in this part of the world. So if they show you the invoice, okay, this is how much you spend on the materials and labor, you'll be so shocked what it is, and you'll be so shocked the amount of profit that is on those is on those houses. You'll be so shocked. I can tell you it's a ripoff. I know this is very well. It's a serious ripoff. So for lump sum, you can't see that. I'm not obligated to show you. I'll show you that. But if it's a time and material job, but for construction job, usually the construction job are not time and material. I don't think they do. Uh, yeah, most of the time we don't do time and material for construction jobs. There's some construction that I do that we do time and material on my own pipeline jobs that I've done. That of course some bill lump sum inside the time and material. Some costs are basically lump sum, and some other costs that are usually most of the time cost of laborers that are working on the job are bill time and material because things might happen on those jobs like there might be delays, you know, things weather might, weather delay, things that happen. Some usually they subject the cost of the laborers to time and of course the materials that they use. So just take note of that. You must get all of these supporting documents because these are things that you'll be showing your end client depending on the kind of contract. And again, usually it depends on the agreement you have with the client because when the client issue a purchase order is usually we call it PO. After we have submitted our proposal, the client will issue a PO. Issue a PO means that they can go ahead. This is the amount we have approved the money, and they give you some terms and conditions you have to follow. So when you get your PO, that means you can start work. So all of those conditions, things that you need to submit with your invoices, how you're going to submit the invoices will be stated in your PO. So as a project manager, when you receive PO, you want to really sit down, take your time, look at the PO before you sign it, because you have to sign the PO that you agree. You want to look at the PO, read it to make sure you are comfortable with everything that is on the PO. And usually, if you have senior bosses, let them look at it. If you have a legal department, let them look at it before signature is appended on it. Let them review. Let the legal guy review all of the legal terms, and they will advise and let some of your bosses also look at it. Well, once you sign it, you are committed to it. So all of the frequencies for reporting, submitting invoices, all of those details will be captured in the PO. So, okay. So how you want to track your costs? I think I've talked about it. Depending on the level of the project, it could be weekly, it could be bi-weekly. And most of my projects are weekly, some bi-weekly. Some client ask for monthly report. Even after you have submitted a weekly report, you still have to submit what they call a monthly report. All right. Example, website project you plan. Let's just leave that. So comparing plan versus actual. Okay. All right. So this is what you basically do, when it comes about variance analysis, we are comparing things. So January, we plan to spend 10,000, but at the end of the day, you spend 9,500. You have a variance of what? 500,000. So what does that mean is that you're under the cost. In February, we plan to spend 20,000. Well, we spent 23,000. That means we are over the cost. March, we plan to spend $15,000, but the actual cost is $15,000. Now, this in itself might not really mean something bad or something good. So you can't take this as a judgment on, you have to really now start investigating the reason why this happened. That's when you now begin to worry about that. Speak to what is actually happening. So the way I've shown this, usually I don't show positive. In my project, I don't show positive as so it depends on you. How you want to track your things and make life easier for you, how your brain works. But for me, usually I put things that are negative as things that are over as negative. Usually that's what I do. Is usually I do my planned cost minus actual cost. So that will give minus 3,000. So when I enter my C minus, it tells me, oh, I'm negative. So that's and I think that's it. That's a good way to do it. And usually on your Excel, I format my cells such that anything that is negative turns red, you know. So that's the format. But if you want to also do that as your own formatting, that's fine in your variance analysis. But usually, I think for easy thing, everybody's when something is negative, I format the cell to be red. Then it throws it red, so I can quickly see, oh, where is this red coming from? Yeah, I'll have some very uh, good template I'm going to share with us, show us. So basically, this is just a simple thing. You're comparing your course, then you need to start analyzing why what is happening. Why are we over budget? Is it that we have, for example, this one now, uh, we plan to spend 10,000, we are spending 9,500. So we are under by 500. You might, for the layman, might be happy. Oh, we've not spent all the money uh, we plan to spend. We plan to spend 10,000, but we are actually spending 9,500. Please don't be happy because of that. That might be a problem. Because you have not spent the 10,000 at the end of the at the end of January should not mean that you should be happy. You must look at that because it could be a problem. It could be a problem in the sense that you have not, you are behind schedule. That's what this could mean, that you are behind schedule. It could mean that you're actually behind what? Behind schedule. And it could also actually also mean that what? You are ahead of schedule. So you have to investigate it. For example, what they've actually done is 9,500 worth of work? What that means is that they've not done 10,000 worth of work that is planned for January. So I see work of 500,000 that is still what? Left to be done. Or it could mean that they've actually spent 9,500, but the value of the work they've done is just 5,000. But they spend 9,500. But the value of the work is what is 5,000. So that's a greater problem. A greater problem in the sense that you're over budget and you're also what? Behind schedule. Because the value of the work they've done is 5,000, but they spend 9,500. You are going to see this in M value. This is where M value management comes in. So looking at this on the surface does not really show you that something good or bad is happening. You're just looking at the face value, then you have to now look within, inside. Because this could mean either of two or three things as a project manager. So don't just be so excited because it could mean that, hey, we are behind schedule or we are ahead of schedule. Or it could mean that we are under budget or over budget. So about two or three or four things could happen in that place. All right. But you're gonna I have another slide dedicated to end value management. Yeah. And yeah. So this particular slide I'm covering now is just something to catch up, just holistic a lot of things, but I have some slide dedicated to certain things that we're going to discuss. So basic variance analysis, so it's actual cost minus plan cost, but usually uh, I do what I do. I'm just telling what I do in practice is I do my plan cost, my actual, but just for you to get the whole idea of, so if you are using actual cost minus plan cost, then you need to check where your negative and positive is to know whether you are over budget or not budget. So it's basically getting the difference between your actual and your plan. That's the concept basically. So there's no really defined rule, or if you say plan minus actual, but you have to know what you are doing. Uh, but the number alone is not the inside. So the risk scale, I think that's what I just explained, is asking the right follow-up question to understand what the variant means and what to do about it. You must ask questions. Just looking at, because it's negative plus it does not really immediately speak to the situation. Don't be too excited because it's positive means you are positive. No, it might not mean that you're actually positive. It means that it could even be smelling trouble. That is showing a positive value could mean trouble. With what I just explained above. Okay. Let me explain this bullet. A pattern of small variance across multiple activities is often more warning than one large isolated variance. Now, I experience this a lot, because of the kind of nature of job I do. I manage a lot of project managers doing different projects, and I support a lot of them. Some of them I just support them with their cost management on their project. And most of the time, what you hear them speak is that, uh, let me see something. Just a minute. Let me see if I can. No, just a moment. Okay. Okay. Can we see my slide? Can you see my screen? What I'm showing right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, uh, we talk about WBS the other time. So look at this is WBS. These are WBS, right? So under this, for example, these structural engineering services. So that's a roll up, and these are all the activities are under these structural engineering services. These are all the activities there. The same thing. So this is how you build. We talk about building your WBS and you build your course for different activities. So this is an activity under this work. Now, when you look at this, let's look at line 22 now, for example. The total cost here is of these structural engineering services right now is okay. Let me show you what this means. So now this shows estimates spent to date. This is the budget. Everybody look at this column. This is the budget, and these are change orders. So this give like the current total budget. Okay, so let's focus on the current total budget. Now, later I'm going to explain what this column means. Estimate spend this period. We're going to talk about what I did want to explain right now for the what we are doing right now, so I don't confuse us a lot. Is the fact that this is the total amount that has been spent today. This is the budget, and this is the total amount of money I've spent, and this is the budget remaining. So budget remaining basically is what is left. This is what we have spent, right? Sorry, estimate spent to date. We have spent four and let me just color that as yellow. We've the budget is 7. Let me call it as green. Is 756,000. But as of today, look at the date here is showing at April 4. As at April 4, we have spent 411,000. So what is left is what is 345,000 for these engineering services. So when you look at this, money is still left. Money is still left. But this in itself does not suggest that whether we are good or bad, because you have to now go and check it against the work that has actually been done before you can know whether you're in trouble or not. The percentage of the cost you are spending is 54%. Now, maybe I should not use that line overall, for example. Let me use this second line because I don't have the percentage of progress yet. Now, look at this second line here, the sub-activities here. For the sub-activity, what is spent today is 76,000. And what we budget for that level of activity is 128,000. Okay, for this sub activity. Now, when you look at the percentage spent, the percentage spent is 59%. Because how do I get that? That's the 76,000 divided by this, give the percentage of the what? That's percent of the budget. So the percentage of the cost you have spent is 59,000. But when you look at the progress, the schedule, and the schedule is saying what is 50 what? 50%. We have completed 50% of work. We have completed 50% of work, but the money we have spent is what 59%. What does that tell you? It tells you there's a big of trouble here. Because we have only done 50% of the work, but we have spent 59% of the money. That tells you that gives you an information straight away. So usually this 60% you get it from your schedule. The schedule you have built, the guys, you are getting percent completion from your schedule, and I bring that value into this place. It tells me that hey guys, we've only done 50% of the work, but we spent 59% of the money. So these are the things you as a project manager are showing the guys. But what I'm speaking to right now, based on what I have on that slide, is not even this. We're going to get to that, what I'm saying right now. But what I'm concerned right now is things like this that I have here. Yeah, right now is this. Now, this guy, anytime I'm talking to the project manager, now this job now there are about two project managers that are in this job. So this geotechnical part, because you have the engineering manager, the engineering project manager, and the geotechnical project manager that I'm talking to. And anytime I'm talking to the guy, I'm letting the guy, hey guy, see red everywhere. Guy, on this, we are minus 18,000, you are spent over, you are 18,000 over. Can see it's 125% spent. So you're over the budget. This one, you are $973,000 over. This one, and the guy will be telling me, hey, I still have money. He's looking at it. Look at the total here. His total is still positive. Can you see that? So his total is still showing 58,000 what? $58,000. let me tell you, okay, maybe for guys if you don't understand. So what you have here basically is the sum of all the values here. Basically, that's what it means. Because under these geotechnical services, we have field planning activity, project management activity, geotechnical report, settlement analysis, bore logging, site visit, third party. All of those things are part are the things that make up these geotechnical services. You understand? So under that WBS, so the total of that of the budget we have is 1.1 million. So on that now, so this guy will be like, hey, Sam, I'm not bothered. I still have 58,000, left for this engineering service. And the only reason why you have this 58,000 is because of this, basically this 39,000 and this 87,000 that is still left here that is absorbing what? Absorbing this cost. And this guy feels they'll feel like they'll feel like, okay, I'm not going to spend all of this 87,000 for this third party drilling. I still have money. And truly, that's what they keep saying every time, most of the time when I speak to this particular project manager. But now when I look at my schedule, truly I look, okay, are you done with the top party? You can see it's 100%. He's actually done with the guy. So he has 87,000, you know, left in this particular line of that WBS, which kind of make up for all of the overages, overspend they have on other activities. But it might not work like this every time. It might not work like this for every time. Your job as a project manager, you have to keep alerting to them every time, especially when you begin to get to 80% spend. And you'll be comparing with your schedule percent. You'll be telling them, guys, you're almost or to 100%. Look in terms of spend, but your schedule is saying you're still 60%. Are you sure you are not going to need more money? Or are there justifications, for why you were overspent? Can we go back to the client to ask for more money? But most of the time, guys will just be like, "Oh, I see." They'll be looking at the overall. They don't pay attention. Most of the time, they don't pay attention uh, to all of these little things. They don't pay attention. But you are paying has to pay attention to this all these little because at the end of the day, what will happen is that when you begin to have this little overage, if the level of it is so much, it might eventually affect your overall at the end of the day. Like they said a little drop of water make an ocean. So as a project manager, that's how you think that a minus $50 overspent here that doesn't look big, you know, to everybody can become so huge if $50 overspent here, $100 overspent there, $30 overspent here. No, those amount of money look so small, so small, so small. But by the time you begin to aggregate them together, they become so huge. So you as a project manager, anything negative, no matter how small, please pay attention to it. It doesn't mean you have to overflog it, but pay attention to it. Like I said, it's so clear for everybody to see when I present this report to them, they are seeing red. It shows red to them. Hey guys, we are spending here, we are spending. Once one time they'll tell you, okay, so we still have money. And usually, for this kind of guys, what has happened is this that the fact that they've in billing the client, they put some money into third party. Like they've estimated, okay, third party is going to spend maybe for argument's sake, this 584,000, and the guy might have built an extra 87,000 into that third party that we are showing to the client. So these are the things I'm talking about, like the fact that the client, the question Bro Isaac asked the other time. This 87,000 could be a contingency that we have this guy. I didn't build this budget because I was invited to manage the cost of this project. They built into their cost because they know fully well that things might go wrong. So the guy is still happy that okay, even though I'm over budget here, this extra money I have in this line of the cost will make up for what? For the extras that are spent here. So these are how it works. But your own job is what? You must show them this. You present your report to them, and because these people are also project managers, they are responsible for this for their cost. You understand? My job is just to manage, show them, present it to them, and if things are going wrong or negative, uh, you know, they have to give me justification. Because if I have to go back to the client to ask for more money, I have to go with justification why the client needs to give more money. So what I'm trying to explain here is that please pay attention to every little spend. Don't worry, I'm still going to come back to this slide, this spreadsheet that I have here. Yeah. So okay. Does that make sense, please, everyone? If it makes sense, please give me a thumb up, please. So 3 questions to ask every time. Why is it over or under, please? I've explained this. Is it temporary or structural? Does it affect the forecast? Please, um, I'm going to show us something on forecast. Hey, I'm on time. I don't know why time goes so fast. Okay. Um, does it affect the forecast? So we must always ask this. Ask this. So in terms of how does it affect the forecast? Um, should I show this now? No, I don't let me because I'm going to waste because I'm still going to deal with it. I have so many templates to show us here. Um, so we're still going to deal with this forecasting. So ask yourself all of these questions. Okay, this was an introduction to end value. There's a separate slide for end value where I'm going to walk through an example for end value. Elder, please go ahead with your question, sir.
Well, yes, sir, the question I have is that assuming you are a project manager, which the project has been planned already before they employed you, and you find out that many of these resources you have enter into negative. So how will you, as a project manager, revamp the situation?
I'm inviting. So your question again, if I understand the question, I'm
Yes, sir.
inviting to manage the.
What I'm asking is that you are just a new project manager
Yeah,
employed in a particular place, in a
yeah,
particular project,
yes,
and you find out before you come, the budget has been already
overspent.
been done.
Yeah,
And in the course of you are doing the project, you find out that with the budgeted cost to the resources, you are going all the things that have gone before you came was negative. So as a project manager, how do you revamp such a situation?
all right. That's a very good question. So thanks for that question. A very good question. So you will meet these kind of scenarios as you work as a project manager. You're going to meet this. You're going to meet this more than often. Project that you didn't start to be handed over to you, and the project might not be in good shape, and that might even be the reason why you're actually employed. It might be the reason why you're employed. Um, One of the first major projects I handed over in my current place was this kind of question that it was this question that you ask. The project was in very bad shape. Basically, they just reached out to the PMO department, hey, and I need to take over this project. So the very first thing you want to do is that something is handed over to you. You want to understand the true status of that project. This is how you met it. You must be able to prepare a report. This is how you met this project. Look at it. They might say it's minus, we are minus 200,000 over. That's what they presented to you. But when you actually now sit down, review the scope, review the work, look at all the costs and everything, you might find out that it's not actually minus 200. It's actually minus 800,000. So you yourself want to reascertain, first of all, reascertain the status of that project yourself. Sit down, look at the books, look at what has been spent, look at the budget, review the invoices. Just sit down, because things might have not been captured very well by whoever is mentioned. So you yourself want to. So when you now look at this, is the true state of the project. So everybody knows it's not your fault. So now the next question is, when you have identified the status, ask yourself, why did all of this happen? Why did all of this happen? You must ask yourself all of those questions. Why did all of this happen? And you will have asked part of the answers to come from the people who handle value project. They will give you a summary of what has happened, things that happened, so you get an idea of why things might have gone the way it is. Maybe people uh, are not sticking to their time. And I'll give you an example of my own project. Uh, so one of the things that happen is that there are a lot of what they call rework. A lot of rework happen on the project. Something that should have gone out very well in the first time. They submit to the client, and because it's time and most of my job are times and materials, and so one day I've spent. We've budgeted we're going to spend 50 hours and on that project, and they spend and maybe after that 50 hours, 40 hours to submit the work to the client. The client usually there's what we call the first level of revision. So maybe we've only only told the client we are going to allow for one revision. The client reviews the document and they come back with comments. Then we work on those comments and we send back to them. So that cycle is what they call revision. And we've budgeted 10 hours for that. So what happened is that we spend 40 hours to do the work. We send to the client and the client look at it. Hey, this is a bad work. This. And the client point a lot of things that are not right about the job. And they send it back to you. And when they are sending it back to you, the hours you're going to use to fix that thing, you can't charge it to the client because it is not the client's fault. You did a bad job. So those costs will go into what we call rework. So you can't bill the client for it. So you have spent 40 hours. It might not happen that, and this has happened. You spend 40 hours to do a bad work. When it comes back, the cost of rework is very, 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 very costly. Isaac will know better what I mean by that. Cost of rework. he will know better. Imagine you are building a house, you pour concrete down, and the client comes, hey, this wall is not supposed to be here. This wall is supposed to be built here, but you guys have not built a wall where you're not supposed to build it. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? You have to pull the wall down. So when you're pulling the wall down, what are you? You're wasting material. Now, and again, all of the time that have been used to build that wall, what has happened is gone. So what happened? The client is not going to pay for that. The client is not going to pay for the time you have used to build the wall. Don't forget you have spent time. You are going to pay laborers. Materials have been spent to build the wall. You bought from suppliers that you're going to pay. Now, because it's a bad job, the client is not accepting it because that's not what they expect. What happens? You lose all of that money. Now, you are going to now spend money. You know, don't forget that to actually now bring the wall down, you have to now spend extra money to even work on to destroy the wall. Because laborers have to come and start building the wall. So we are going to pay for people who are going to bring down the wall. Clients, you can't bill that to the client. So that's another additional cost. You understand? So that's two levels of cost that you can't bill to the client. Now, you will now do another wall again. Build a new one at the client. Out of all of those 30 costs you spend, there's only one that can get of the cost of building the wall. So you can see that the cost of rework is very, very bad. It's more than twice what you will have spent, usually like times 3, when you have to do. And that's what happens when people don't do a work properly. So you can see why it's very important that scope must be understood very, very well. Because cost of rework is always very, very, very terrible. And this project, so I took over, most of the costs are expensive costs from rework. Because scope were not properly understood from the beginning. So they do something that they did not understand clearly. There was no clear agreement, clear statement of what needs to be done or what the expectation or deliverable is. So they deliver something that is different from what the client, and the client be like, oh no, this is not what we agreed. This is not what we expected. Oh, we thought this is what we expected. And no. So don't go back. They spend 40 hours. All of those 40 hours they spend is gone. It's totally wasted. They have started spending money again, extra hours. So that's what happened on this project. So I understood what happened. After ascertaining the cost, to true nature of the cost, okay, this budget, this project is actually overspent to this amount. They told me it's 1 million overspent, but it's actually 2 million. I ascertained that. Secondly, why did all of this happen? I understood that. Then my job is now to all of those things that make them to go over the budget. You want to start making sure that those things begin to correct them. It doesn't happen again. So you are not starting on the front note. So most likely you might not be able to. Those costs is gone. So your own job is to not to is to stop the decadence. That's all your job. The project is just going down. So they brought you in. Please, can you stop with this decadence so you don't keep losing money? So that's what you're actually doing. It does not mean you're going to recover the money, back. So, but because this is a training, okay, I want to say something. I'm being careful because I'm online. But part of what I've done a project. Let me put it this way: project whereby I was able to recover some money back on that project because it was a time and material job. There was a way I was able to recover some money back. Again, this depends on the level of experience. It's not something. It depends on level of experience, understanding of the job. Uh, you know, and yeah, let me put it that way. I was able to recover some money back in the sense that you know, so there is a cost code. Usually, you know, I don't know if I can. Okay, I don't have something. I could have shown us something here. So when you are part of when you build your WBS, yeah, you build your cost code. Cost code means that places where you're charging all of your costs to, or cost for engineering is going to go to this cost code. Cost for travel is going to go to the cost code. Cost for business is going to go for, you put different. So usually now you have a cost for charging rework. So you are tracking all of the rework because you can't bill that to the client, but we need to be able to account for how many hours you spend on rework. So when anytime something is a rework, you ask them to charge it. How many hours have you spent to redo this work? You put all of that in a particular cost code. So, and those are the things that bring negative into your what? A huge negative because you can't charge it to the client. You can't take that money from the client. So one of the things I did, I look because it was so huge. It was so huge. So what I did was to really sit down and look at that rework and all of the charges, and you will be seeing the descriptions of things that they put there. And just to put it lightly, I was able to see certain things that I feel that I could argue that they are not rework. I feel I read, I look at them, I look at the work, I look at all the descriptions. I wasn't part of it, I look at all the descriptions they put there, and there's some money I moved from rework back to the actual cost code that I can charge the client, and I was able to sit down, and it was a lot of explanation, fighting here and there because that's your job as a PM, and for me, it's more or less like I could get it back and I could not get it back, but I won't go down without trying. And that's what I did. And I can tell you, it was a positive for me because, again, there's a level of relationship I've built, a level of excellence I've brought to the job with the client that they saw that, okay, this is a different PM from who were in the handling before and they were happy. And I started bringing some things back little by little, gradually. Oh, sorry, this cost wasn't charged before. We missed this. And and that's where I presented with them. Okay, we're supposed to charge you 50,000 for something that was not billed to you 2 months ago. Sorry, we're just billing it now. Oh, why does it not? They will argue those things. What work is that? And I explained it and I explained it, and I was able to bring some money back. So, just to summarize, your answer to your question, establish the true nature or status of that project. That's the first thing you do. Secondly, you asked why did those problems happen, understand it, get answers to it, then you begin to work to prevent those things from happening. Then you set the right standard. So that's how you manage situations like that, basically. And you look at is there a possibility of recovering money from the client? If there's that possibility, please explore it. The worst that will happen is that they will tell you no. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm
All
very
right.
happy now.
All right. And value. So, oh, 10 o'clock. How many slides do I have? I need to plan myself now. Wow, slide 14. Oh, I must finish this. Introduction to end value. Okay. End value management connects scope, time, and cost. The other time I was talking about the fact that when you look at the difference between your actual and your planned cost, don't be too joyful or don't be afraid, too like or agitated because you are seeing a negative or positive. You want to really sit down to understand what that positive means and what that negative means. And usually you are comparing your cost percentage spent and your schedule. That's how you begin to make a lot of sense with the values, like I showed you in that Excel the other time. So end value basically compares scope time. It kind of brings times and cost together. That's what and scope together. That's what end value mean. Telling you not just what you spend, but whether you got value for it. Basically, I might spend 9,500, but the value of work that I've done is $5,000. You know that I spend $9,500 don't mean that I've delivered 9,500 worth of work, and that's what end value. That's what end value think. How it thinks. That you spend 9,500 does not mean you have delivered 9,500 worth of work. I could have spent $9,500 and I've delivered 20,000 worth value of work. So that's how you think. So this concept is more important than the math. Exactly. It's about that's what I just explained is the concept of end value. Basically, the value of the work. You spent this, but what you spent, is it equal to the value of the work? And that's how you determine whether you're over budget or you're under budget or over schedule or ahead of schedule. So please, it's as simple as that. Let me just put it simply right. So the budget, so the other things you must know under the end value management calculation is, and some clients, in the cost report, they will ask you to present, they will in your spreadsheet, some clients, what they want to see is, they want to see the end value. They will ask you to please do me an end value report. And so if the client asks you for that, you have to build it into your cost reporting. All right. So the budgeted cost of the work you planned to complete by this point in time, your baseline target. That's your planned value, your baseline target. So basically, we plan to spend 20,000 at the end of January. We plan to spend 40,000 at the end of February. We plan to spend 100,000. So at the end of March, that's more likely what your planned value. Actual cost, what you actually spent to date, like I showed you. So that's what your actual cost. So that's very straightforward. End value, the budgeted cost of the work you actually completed. It is the true measure of progress in dollar worth time. I repeat that again. The budgeted cost of the work you actually completed, it is the true value of the progress in dollar measure. So we have done a particular level of work, maybe 20% of the work. So that 20% of the work, you must have budgeted, because 20% of the work is going to cost us maybe 100,000. So that is the value. So if you have spent $20,000, the question is that $20,000 you spent, is it the value of the work? It might not be, like I explained earlier. So maybe at the end of January, you spent 20,000 at the end of January, which is what? You spent $20,000. But when we now look at the value of the work you've done is $10,000. So what value? So the end value is 10,000. But you've actually spent what? 20,000. But the value you have earned is actually what? 10,000. Even though you have spent 20,000, but the value is what? Of that work is what? Which is actually based on on your budget. And it could mean that you've budgeted wrongly. But what you've budgeted is that, hey, we budgeted that, by the time I finish the window of all the windows in this house, I would spend 100,000. But you find out, hey, you spent 100,000, but you have not even finished the window. Excuse me, and that's the problem there. 100,000 has been spent, but you have not finished the windows. So that's how end value looks at the work. End value is looking at, okay, you budgeted 100,000 for the window. Now you have spent 100,000. Have you completed the window? So this is how it works. Understand? So please, let's take note of this. It's very, very important. Yeah, I love end value. It's just practical. By end of week 4, you plan to complete 50% of portal configuration. So by end of week 4, you plan to complete 50%. The planned value is $4,000. So you actually completed 40%. When you complete the 40%, what does that mean? 40% you spent. There's a cost for that 40% you completed. You completed 40% of the work. Now, that 40% of the work, what's the value? That'll be 40% by what? Of what? What did I get there? Am I correct with my calculation? Plan value is 40,000. So your end value is 3,000 and you spend 4,500. Okay. So what does this mean? Now, we said the planned value is what? Week 4, we plan to spend 50% of portal conversion, what? Which the value is what? 40,000. Yes. Now, 50% because of what? $4,000. Now, you have completed 40%. 40% will have been 3,200. I'm sorry, we understand how that calculation comes into place, right? Does anybody that doesn't understand that? Sorry, I'm just looking at something here. Okay, so does anybody understand that I got 40% to 3,200? If you don't understand, please let me know. I can explain, please. So my screen, I can't see us again. I think. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to see. I can't see us again, so I'm trying to make sure that. Okay, yes, I can see us now. So if you don't understand how I got 3,200, I need to get that quickly before I move ahead. Do you understand how I come about 3,200? If you don't understand, just let me know. I'll explain this. Simple. I need us to participate, please, please. Okay, if you understand, give me thumbs up. Okay, beauty. Only Sitakbaladi understood that. So am I assuming that the rest of us doesn't understand how I got 3,200? Now, you are as a PM, these are you have to be. These are things you'll be doing. These are practical things you'll be doing. So I'll just explain straight. So what I said by the end of week 4, you plan to complete 50% of portal configuration, which is $4,000. What does that mean is that 100% will be what? If 50% is 4,000, 100% will be what? Will be 8,000. That's how you're gonna. So 100% will be 8,000. So you can easily get 40% of that. So if 100% is 8,000, what will be the 40% of 8,000? It will be 3,200. It's as simple as that. 40% of 8,000 will be 3,000. So that's what it means. So that's how that 40%, 3,200 comes about. Simple. So I'll start again. By end of week 4, you plan to complete 50%, and that's your plan. That's what you plan. That okay, by week 4, we will have done 50% of the work. And the value of that 50% is what? Is $4,000. But at the end of the week 4, you only completed 40%. The expectation is that for that 40%, what we expect you to spend is 3,200 because that's the value of the 40%. But in the actual sense, you have spent $4,500. So what does this mean now? First of all, it means that you are behind schedule. You are behind schedule in the sense that you've only done 40% of the work. 40% of the work is all you have done. So you are behind schedule. Because by week 4, the plan is that you'll have done 50%. You are only done so you are behind schedule. And secondly, you are over budget. Because we expect you to just spend 3,200, but you have spent $4,500. So these are end value in a simple sense how it was. So you have two problems here. Two problems revealed here. By just looking at the cost, even if it's telling me that, hey, you are behind schedule and you are over the budget. And we're going to show us, like I said again, there's a dedicated slide where we're going to look at example tables calculating end values and the other thing we're going to calculate, call the cost performance index and schedule performance index. All right, I'll move very fast from here because of time. I wanted to take a break. I'm going to take a break. Maybe I've been talking for almost 2 hours now. So maybe I can take a break here for like 5 minutes. Please, let's take a break for 5 minutes. Let me take some water, then I'll be back. All right. I was going to pause the recording. Okay. All right. So let's look at this. Just a simple scenario. I want to run through this slide so I can go to something that I have here. We have a budget for $60,000. At the midpoint, you expect to have spent $30,000, but your actual spend is what? $38,000. I'm sure we understand this is what you plan that you'll have spent at the midpoint, but you have spent $38,000. Now, work completed 40% of scope. How do you get this 40%? From your schedule. Because when you develop your schedule, you're sitting with the guys and they are putting the percentage completion, I think I showed that last week. Let me see if I can bring that up again. Did I? Just a minute. So, when you build your schedule, so these are all of the percentage that you have in here. These are where you get percent complete from. Why is it not expanding beyond this? Oh, something's happening. Okay, I got what's happening now. Okay, so if you look at it, you can see percent complete here. So this is where you're picking your percent complete of your task. You come here, it's not something you just guess. You know, the kind of client you're asking the guy, okay, for example, you're asking them, okay, let me see something that's 50% here. They are telling you this is the project that, okay. I'm just looking at a value that is not. Okay, I'll just pick something here. Maybe, for example, I'm saying, oh, this AGD22, for example, or the guys who come back. There's list of subjectivity that comes into it, but it's your schedule overall kind of reduce the subjectivity. Oh, they look at the work they've done. Okay, we have just about 71% complete on that one. You put that value there, and or sometimes it could be by days. This could be estimated by days. You know, like okay, February 1, February 7, we are going to complete by February 27, no, as a dead date. So that based on that date, it can be estimating the percent completion based on date. But most of the time, you actually look at the actual work that is on the ground, and you put that percentage there. What happens is that this date might increase, but don't let me go into this, spend more time on this. But you basically get your percent completion from your schedule, and that's what we have here. Now, what happens is that you are 8,000 over plan with only 40% of scope done. Don't forget that we say at midpoint, that's 50%. Okay, so discussion before you panic. So when you look at this value, so what you start asking, is spending front loaded? Were there one-time setup costs that won't reoccur? If so, the remaining spend may be lower. What does that mean? Now, what this means is basically, what this I'm saying here is basically that, that we're 8,000 over does not mean that there's a serious issue. Does not mean that. Now, for example, there could be a very huge amount of cost that, for example, it could be a license that you need for that job. And that license is costing maybe that's 8,000. It's costing maybe $8,000 or $10,000. Now, the cost of that license, don't forget that license is going to be used throughout the length of that project. It's going to, that maybe it's our software. It's going to be used throughout that length of that project, maybe from January to December. So ideally, that cost, if you want to really do it well, you spread it from over the month. Your cost baseline, you spread it from January to to December. But in real sense, we might not do that because it's a cost that we're going to be paying, because I'm not paying it monthly. If I'm paying it monthly now, it's a different thing, but I'm going to pay it one time, maybe annually. So because I'm paying it annually, I will have the whole of that $10,000 cost of that software will have been paid in January. Even though, if I amortize it, if you know what I mean by amortize means to divide. If I amortize that 10,000, or for the sake of let's say 12,000, every month the cost will be 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 every month. But in January, I've paid 12,000 for a cost that is going to spread over 12 months. So when you look at your cost, it will look like, oh, you have overspent, but the truth is that you have not actually overspent, because what happened, you only front loaded the cost payment. 12,000 is supposed to be spread over 12 months, but you paid everything in January because it's an annual payment. So it might not be that you are in a problem. So you want to really investigate. That's where the investigation comes in, to really look at why am I over budget. So please don't panic. Really investigate. Are we ahead in work? It could also be that we are ahead of work. So that you are over budget, you plan to spend this amount, but you have spent the amount. It could mean that you have actually ahead of work. That's what that cost could be speaking to. And when you're looking at your cost baseline, in our cost baseline, you said we'll spend 50,000 at this time, we will spend 100,000. It could mean that you are ahead of work. You are fast ahead of work, and that's why you have spent more. So that's a good news. So just understand what's driving the overrun, and what are your options. If you are it's not you are on the negative, whether with cost or with schedule, look at what is happening. What can you do to mitigate that cost? So adding cost changes, simply change control. Not every overrun signals a falling project, but every material change to the cost baseline must go through a deliberate decision process. Change control is not bureaucracy, it is accountability. So there's something called change order. There's another slide dedicated to this. I've just an example to walk through this. Is that now when you see something negative on your project in terms of cost and schedule, you want to identify the cost. That is very, very important. That's what you do. Sit down. Why am I having this? This is what you do as a project manager every day when you see negative things on your project. Why am I having this? Create viable mitigation and trade-off choices. How can I stop it? How can I recover my money back? Uh, get sponsor decision, present options for formal sponsor for approval. So if you need to recover the money back, then you need to get an approval for it. Record decision and revise the cost baseline. So if you get your money back, maybe you are over budget by 200,000 and you're able to recover the money back from the client, maybe some additional scope of work, maybe some waste of time from the client, and you're able to recover the money back. So what happened is that you add back that to your budget, and that thing I showed us the other time. That's where the essence of this current budget means. This is your original budget. So if there are change orders, you kind of put that into your, so you can have a revised budget. So that's what these two columns is for: the approved budget and something what they call approved. This CO means change order. It means change order, and this pending means change order. So approved change order means change order I've submitted to the client that the client have approved. So I put it there. Pending, the ones that I've discussed with the client, I've submitted it, and I'm going to explain that to you under the change order. What I mean by, I've submitted, but it's not been approved. Because usually, before the ideal thing, before you submit a change order to the client, you must have discussed with the client. And the client have a lot of discussion have gone in. That's the ideal thing you discussed. Then the client asks you to send it. That you send it does not mean it will be, it has been approved. If it's not signed, you have not received a signed copy back from the client, then it's not approved yet. So I'm putting it as a pending CO. What this means here is that I've discussed it with the client that, okay, this 199,000 year is going to come, your way. That's too dark. It's going to come your way because of so reason. And the client, okay, fine. The client asks, can you send me your change order? So I send it, but I've not yet received a signed copy back. So I put it as a pending CO. So this is my revised budget. So this is what I mean by revise your budget based on that change order that you submit. So document update. There's another session from now. We look at that. So common response options in terms of, these are just, ways if there's a budget or something like that, how can you recover your cost back? Negotiate reduced scope with the vendor, switch to a lower cost alternative provider, remove optional or lower priority features, request additional budget from sponsor. I'm just saying these are different options for recovering costs back depending on what's happening on your project. So, there's nothing cast in stone here. It depends on what is happening in your project. Look at it and see how can I recover the money back. Yeah, it could be something that if it's something that is coming from the client and because of the budget or the money that is at hand right now cannot finish it. So you might talk to the client, okay, can we remove this scope, this scope, this scope? I think we've discussed this in some of our sessions about how we can move something to phase two. Yeah, we can still do phase one without this. You let the client know, yes, this is the amount of money that you guys have approved, and we know they can't get approval. Maybe they have to go and source for fund from somewhere. So we can let them know we can get this out of the scope, and we just do this 1, 2, 3 scope, and within the amount of money that we have. So depending on the nature of your project, please discuss with your client. Yeah, and if it's something that you need additional budget for, please go through the formal document process. We'll take note of that. Never mind about that. So, cost reporting basics. Now, know your audience, answer the right questions. Now, there are different kind of templates that you can use to report your costs. Some organizations have a reporting template to report how they report their costs to the client. So if your organization have one, fine and good. If they don't have one, you might have to develop one for yourself. Like I have one here, so that generally use. So it's just so this captures a whole lot of things, And again, it takes time to prepare all of this report. So depending on and there must be a budget for this. that the effort that is required to prepare this report, you must have budget for it in your budget. These are the things that you put into your budget. So depending on if, for example, this is a time and material job, so depending on the level of information the client wants, it's going to determine how much I'm going to apportion to my budget. So for this one, I'm showing them the budget, CEO. I'm showing them the uh, total approved change order. I'm showing them all of this estimates spent this period. So because I'm doing a weekly report, I'm telling them this amount we spend this week. I'm telling them amount spent to date, budget that is left, percentage progress, and I'm also showing them some graphs that automatically populate as I'm changing values there. This will populate itself, will work out itself. I'm giving them activity for last week, as if for the current week, showing them some summary values there. I'm also having this is what we call the aging report. We call this aging what? Aging report. Aging report means your invoices. So I'm listing all of the invoices that I've submitted for this project. So these are all the invoices I've submitted and the date that the invoice date, the invoice number, putting in the amount of that invoice. Now, where the aging comes in is basically this AR means account receivables. Account receivables. So I'm saying now, if the money, I'm now kind of how do I put it now? Segmenting those invoices. Now, 1 to 30 means the invoice that are submitted is within 30 days. Is within 31 to 60 days. Is within 61 to 90 days. These are all invoices greater than 90 days. So I'm not seeing anything here. What it means is that I've total collected. That means I've collected this money. Because I've collected this money, you won't see anything here. Now, for these ones here, what it means is that, look at this line here. Look like these 2 lines here. So what this means is that now, I've submitted this invoice for 109,000. But I've not yet, that money has not been received from the client. So what I mean is that money does not, now how long has it been with the client? Is it within 130 days? No. It's within 31 to 60 days. So it's telling me now that this invoice has stayed with the client between 31 and 60 days. The same thing for this invoice line 2 here. I've billed the client for 5,000, but the client has not paid me back. So this invoice has passed 30 days. It has now fallen within the 31 to 60 days. So this is not really a problem for this particular one I'm showing, because what happened here, in your PO, the terms of payment will have been agreed. So for this kind of project now, the client there's something called N60. N60 means net 60, next 60 days. It means that we'll pay you after 60 days. We'll pay you within what? Within 60 days. Basically, that's what it means. So because it's still within 60 days, there's no problem. The client, there's still no problem. The only way it becomes a problem is when it now falls between 61 and 90 days, because it has now passed for 60 days. So for this kind of client, you look at the terms of your PO, the client is telling you, I will only pay you between 1 and 60 days. So if you receive it at the 30th day, fine and good. But so far it has not passed 60 days, I'm still within my right. So here I have no problems. But why you are doing this, because you must be tracking all of your invoices to be sure. So when it falls between 61 and 90 days, what do? You have to go after the client. When I mean go after the client, you now have to reach now. You now have the right to now reach out the client, because what I mean is that now these are overdue invoices. It now becomes an overdue invoices. That's what it becomes, because it has gone beyond the agreed. Some projects, most on N30, some are N60, some could be N90. Means it's only after 90 days that you can start falling after me. So I'm sure. So these are the things you have to note as a project manager. Monitor the aging. So you have to. So you age your invoices. You must be tracking this. This is very very important. And one thing I need to let you know also, before you reach out to the client, when you look at, for example, when you look at the aging of the report, okay, these invoices, I submitted it on the 13th of February. Now it's still within 31 to 60 days, or perhaps it has now gone to, it's now fall between 61 and 90 days, and the time of your contract is 60 days. It's N60. So before you reach out to the client, please truly confirm that the money has not been paid. Reach out to the account department. I've had cases whereby, when I pull the report from the system, it shows that the money has not been paid. Because when you are working with the system, right? You go to report and you pull your report and say, oh, this invoice has not been paid. So you are making your report. Please confirm again from the account department. Say, account, and usually the account receivable department, because they are the one receiving money from clients. So we call them accounts receivable. The people that pay suppliers, we call them account payables. So the account receivable department, you reach out to them, hey, hello team, please can you please confirm that this invoice have not actually been paid? I've had situation whereby I put a report from the client from the system and they're telling me that this invoice has not been paid. And I reached out to the client. The client is, hey, excuse me, we paid this money 2 weeks ago. That's quite embarrassing. You don't want that to happen. That is really, really an embarrassing situation. When client has paid money and your system is showing that it has not been paid, you don't want. It's really, really embarrassing. And I think I did for that client like 2 or 3 times, and it was really, really an embarrassing situation. The client sent a very worded email, so this is really bad. And it was for me. It was a lesson learned for me, because what that means is that there's something wrong in our system, that somebody is not doing his job somewhere. Invoice has been paid, they receive it to the bank, but somebody has not got to update in the system. The money is in our bank, and somebody maybe the person is overworked or something, but has not updated the system in the account because the money has been received. And when you now go back to the client, it's a very bad. It sounds so unprofessional. So please take note of that. Please take note of this. So you ask them. So when you ask them, what they do, that they will now have to go to the bank to actually check. And what has happened is that several times, oh, sorry, you now apologize, oh, sorry, this money has been paid. And they're going to say and update it. So please, you don't want to start exposing your mess outside to your client. All right? Real life things happening there. Okay. So please, your cost reporting, depending on if your client has a template, you follow the template. Usually, the client will give you a template that we want cost to be reported with our template. So you have to work with the client template. If they don't have a template, you use your own company template. If your company does not have a template, you build your own template. So 3 things there. The client might give you a template to report cost. If they give you a template, you have to use their template to report cost. If they don't have, you look for your company template and you use it. And if your company does not have templates, you build one to report. And when the client does not have a template, whatever you are going to use to report back to the client must be on the level of information the client wants. You understand? So that's what I mean. You must know your audience. You must ask the right questions. What does the client really want to see? Because those informations, I'm going to come to you, sir, takes time to build. In that cost report I showed us the other time, if you look at it, there's another thing that I built there, monthly forecast. All of this thing takes time to build. You understand? So the client is also asking for you, this is what we call SCOF. There's really a lot of things to cover on that cost. We call this SCOF. All right. Hopefully, if I have time, I will show us to build one. But please, I'm sure it's something that you can learn on yourself. But it is something that you'll be doing. Something else, the video, they will ask you to build an SCOF. SCOF basically is showing your plan, what you originally planned. So if you can look at this yellow line there, if you look at the legend, this is how we plan to spend our cost. This is how the cost is supposed to go. But look at the blue. The blue is showing the actual. So when it's here, it's showing that we are still under. Now, can see where we begin to cross over, going over what we planned. So things are now going over here, beyond what we planned. And it depends on what we have built here. So there's a lot of information, depending on what the client wants. We want to build your cost reporting depending on what the client wants. And that's also depending on how much you're going to charge the client, depending on the budget I built for it. Sir, please go ahead and ask your question, sir.
It's just about the scenario you painted earlier, wherever you went to the client asking for money, not knowing it has been paid. So in order to avoid such, are there internal people you need to talk to before you begin to go to the client to ask for money, just to be sure whether or not it has been paid?
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned the account receivable department. So you reach out to the account receivable department in your finance team, check with them. When you see an invoice, it shows that this invoice is overdue now. Please ask them that, just let them know, sorry, the system shows that this invoice has not been paid. Please, can you please confirm that this has actually not been has actually not been paid. So please, so you reach out to them. So it's a good practice, reach out to them to confirm before you start harassing your client for an invoice. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Okay. And let's see, I think sometimes I underrate my own slides. Okay, cost status slide. Okay, a well structured call slide gives the audience everything. So now, what I'm trying to say here is that please present your cost report in such a way that it's so easy for everyone to see. Just what do you want? Just give me some minutes. I'll be back, please. Yeah. Present your report in such a way that it's so easy for whoever is looking at it to see, get information from it. Don't make it too rumbled. Now, approve budget, actual, I'm seeing, okay, this is what we approve in our PO. This is how much we have spent to date. This is the value, of the work. So when I see something like this, it's speaking something to me as a client. Okay, you have spent 35,000, but the end value is 30,000. Tells me there's a problem. Forecast at completion is telling me that by the time we complete this work, it's going to be 65,000, but our budget is 60,000. What we are approving our PO is 60,000, but it's showing me that forecast at completion is what? Is 65,000. So it shows me that we are going to be 5,000 over budget at the end of the what? At the end of the project. So these are all of this information. This is what it carries a lot of information. And this is what the client quickly want to see. So these are things you present to the client. Let me see what that one, whether I have some information on that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, if you look at my something, just don't be too distracted by what I have here. So if you look at my budget here, if you look at my project here, the budget is now 2.5. Current budget is 2.5. In fact, let's look at, if you just work with the approved budget right now is what is 1.5. That's what I have here, 1.5. Then I got an approval for 443,000. If I add all of those two together, I have 2,019,000 for these two. Addition of 1.57 here and 443 here will give me 2,019 million. So that's 2 million roughly, basically. That's what I have approval for. Now, if you go and look at this one, a forecast that I built here, if you look at here, this line here, let me call it yellow. This line here, oh, sorry, this line, I meant this line. This line here, cumulative forecast. What this is telling me now, you look at the last value that is there, the last value that you see here, this 2.173, let me put that as green. Yeah, it shows me the amount I'm going to spend at the end of the project based on my forecast that I forecasted here, 2.17. But what I have approval for right now is what is 2 million. But my forecast is telling me I'm going to spend 2.17. So that tells you I'm above what has been approved. But these are forecasted. But don't forget that I've already put in another change order for about 526,000. So this is kind of things that you worked on as a project manager, and I think I'm going to deal with this forecasting also, whereby this is what you plan by your period. This is your cost baseline. You can see that's what called the period original plan, like your baseline. At the end of this month, I'm going to spend this. At the end of this month, we're going to spend this. So this is what we plan, how we plan to spend our money. But this is how the money is being spent on a monthly basis. These are the actuals. So then this, what we call the period forecast. And I begin to rebuild my forecast. I do my cumulative. No, don't worry about this. We're going to deal with this because these are the things some clients might not ask for this. You understand? It might be an internal team, but these are internal team you might actually do yourself to check. Basically, am I still good to finish at what I have planned? It's very, very important practice for you as a project manager to, as of today, this project is $1 million. We have spent 500,000 as of today. Now, the remaining work that is left, is the 500,000 that is left, is he able to complete the work? That's what the forecast actually means. So you are sitting down with the technical people, the guys who are doing the work. Hey, okay, let's look at the remaining work that is left. This remaining work that is left, how much is going to finish it? They will estimate it. Oh, we are going to spend 600,000. But what we have left is 500,000. But you guys are saying you're going to spend 600,000 to finish the work. So that tells you there's a problem. Then that shortfall of 100,000, how we are going to recover it? Is this something we're able to recover from the client or not? Then these are the questions you begin to ask internally. So that's where the forecast comes in and the estimate and completion comes in. So please, what I'm saying here, present your report in a way that is if you can build a dashboard, please do a dashboard. A dashboard, it just show you a summary of the information. Basically, that graph that I showed us the other time is a good example. Just I have something when I just look at it, the person is looking at this graph. This graph is communicating a lot of things here. I've seen the total PO, I've seen the total amount of money. So clear picture, of what the current budget is been spent to date. So you can build your Excel based on what information you want the client to see. All right. So just round up this slide here. Common cost management pitfalls. No link between scope, schedule, and cost. Ignoring internal labor. No contingency for no risk. Tracking costs without tracking work done. Surprising the sponsor. So please, you cannot just be tracking costs in isolation. Costs must be tracked, together with work that is being done. You don't just track cost in isolation. That is premature, and that's going to lead to failure. So as you're spending, the cost must be compared with the work that has been done. That's when you actually have a true report of your cost. So please, it's very, very important. Ignoring internal labor, their salary is not a cost management strategy. Internal effort has real opportunity cost and must be tracked. So please, sometimes you have people working on your project, and because whether they work or they do not work, they will be paid. Most of the time, we don't account for their cost in the cost of the project. That is failure. Something we call, whether the Oga sell, Oga no sell, I go collect my money. So you must account for that cost in your project. Because their salary does not mean you should not account for the cost in your tracking. You understand? Because whether those kind of people, whether they work or not work, they will still be paid. And usually those kind of costs, we call them overhead. That's what they call it, overhead cost. So you must build it into your cost, because that will show you your true nature of your cost. Because if you don't put it there, you're going to be giving yourself false sense of profit, because an effort has been spent, but you have not accounted for that effort. So please don't make that error. People make that error. They don't account for salary staff. You must account for their cost. And whatever effort they put into the project, please must put it down, put it there. So please, I promise I'm going to send a lot of material I've not sent. Please, apologies, I'll send them. Please, if I don't, please, someone should remind me, please. Cost management checklist, just a basic cost breakdown tied to WBS. I've talked about all of these things basically, and agreed documented budget and cost baseline. Identify agreed method of capturing cost. Please, I'll send this. If you have any questions, please use the group to ask a question, and I'll surely answer those questions. Because there's a lot of things, a whole lot. I've done only 25% of what I'm supposed to do in 2 days. Really, I'm serious. In fact, it's even up to 25%. It's a lot to cover under this course. Okay, I think that's the end of this slide. I'll just stop there. The next thing we're going to move through is under this. Please, if you have any question, please let me know. Just a moment. I hope there's nobody asking any. No hand raised. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, let's can we do this in so I just want to look at the course study. So for a website development project, I'm going to run through this and I'll share the material with us. A case study for a website development project. So the case study walks through end-to-end process of building the project budget for a corporate website development. Starting with the structure, WBS, rolling up the cost for individual work packages to a final defensible final project. Okay, let's look at this quickly. So what is the context now of this case study? Please let's pay attention. I'll do this in 10 to 15, 20 minutes. We're over time. It's 11 o'clock already. An organization seeks a new corporate website to strengthen its online presence, drive lead generation, and enable customer self-service. What are the scope? It covers design, development, content migration, basic SEO, testing and production deployment, and delivery approach, predictive waterfall, using a structural work breakdown structure. So what I mean by predictive, there's something called predictive waterfall. Predictive waterfall basically means like, the waterfall approach to project management. You finish this before you start this. You finish it before you start this. So that's what predictive means. That is a very planned, stringent schedule whereby you know that when this one finish, you start this one, and you know when you're going to finish it. You know when something's going to start. You can predict when it's going to end. So highly predictive, and it's what we call predictive waterfall. One end of a task tied to another. One must finish before another starts. One must finish before another starts, and you can easily predict it. So we call it predictive waterfall. So it's just a simple, in a nutshell, what we're trying to say is it's very simple, linear schedule to follow through. So objective of this, what we're trying to do here, I want to demonstrate to us how to, do your WBS, show how you use your WBS, build a work package, do your estimation, your calculation, and how you roll up those costs, build a complete cost baseline from the work package. So I just want to show us, it's just a simple way of just building your project costs, and eventually building your cost baseline. Just a simple example that I want to show us here. First of all, the WBS is not just a scheduling tool. You have to use your WBS to build your schedule. It's also the foundation of reliable project budgets. You must use WBS to build your budget, and based on that schedule you've built, you use it to build your cost. You decompose scope into discrete measurable work packages. Decompose your scope, do accurate estimate, roll up to the baseline, enable end value management. So we are saying, like the way I showed us in that cost stuff here. When you look at these are all engineering work here. These 3 lines here, and these are another words called geotechnical work here. So yeah, we have what we call engineering services, and we have certain things that are going to be done on that IFC, IR. These are all different level of activities that are being done under these engineering services. So all of these costs here roll up to what we call engineering services. Under year 2, all of these costs here, all of this activity here, IFP, IFB, design roll up to what we call the structural engineering. The same year, all of these activities. So this is a WBS here, and are broken down, so all of the activities are under it. So it's those activities that I'm costing. I cost them, and it will roll up to what this amount here. So this amount of 553,000 a year, for example, is a summation of all the individual tasks that are under it. So that's what I mean by roll up. You roll them up to this 5553, basically. So, okay. So decomposing approach. How do you decompose? Now, this this is intuitive in the sense that you decompose to a level of comfort that helps you to able to define cost. For example, here I have what we call the level 1, represent the total project. Level 2 define the major phases. So level 3 below contain the specific work. So what I showed you that time is basically what it is. Level 1, level 2, now the total cost of this project is 1.575. 1.575. That's level 1. Level 2 this engineering services here is 553. Structural engineering services is 170. Structural engineering services pipe bridge is 269. The technical service here is 958. Those are level 2. Level 3 and below contain the specific work packages. So level 3 is the these ones here. These are the level 3. All of these lines here are called the level 3. 1, those are level 3. And those are the things that sum up to what you currently have here. So level 3 roll up to level 2. All level 2 roll up to what? Level 1. These are level 2 engineering services, structural services. Yeah. So by the time I add all of this total, that's all giving the total cost of the budget, which is the level 3. Does that make sense for everyone here? If it makes sense, give me a thumbs up, please. Sorry. Am I raising up my own hand? Okay, good stuff. All right, let's move ahead. I'll walk through this case study here. So each work package at the lowest level is the units of estimating effort. Roles and costs are assigned here. Don't worry, I'll just now for a website. So these are the major level of work that are going to be done: initial and planning, requirement and design, development and configuration, testing on quality assurance, deployment and what, and transition. These are high level of work. We have what they call the project project management. So now under initiation and planning. Okay, under initiation, look at this initiation and planning. These are the major work that's going to be done under this website development. So we are broken it down. There's what they call initiation and planning that we're going to do. Well, we have what they call requirements and design, development and configuration, testing and quality. So these are the level of work that has been identified. Usually, of course, you are working with your technical people. They're going to define all this level of work with you. And the project management is there. Project management is your own aspect of the work, and it's something that's going to cover, the whole length of this work, of this job. You'll see it in this case study as we progress. Now, for initial planning alone, it's further broken down into this. Under the initial planning, I'm going to develop my project charter. I'm going to have stakeholder days, project management plan, kickoff. These are the things you do under initial planning. And when you want to cost, these are the things you actually begin to cost. How much does it cost me to develop project charter? How much does it mean to cost me to do 1.12? So I'm putting now, we have to put a code to them. You understand? This is 1.1, initial and planning. So 1.1.1, which is under initial planning, we can develop project charter. So you put code to them, basically. So now we also have requirement and design. Don't forget that this is under another major work under the website development. So the activities are under the requirement and design are the ones I've listed here. You break them down further. So when you want to cost, these are the things I'm going to be costing. So I can't just say I want to cost requirement and design. No. Requirement and design, what are the things under requirement and design? You break them further down. So easily now we are able to cost this. If, for example, this requirement elicitation workshop is also a very big thing, you can further go ahead and break it down again until now become 1.21.1.1, 1.2.1.2, 1.2.1.3. You break it down if it requires further breakdown. So you break it down to a level whereby you're able to do, you get a very, very good estimate, basically. And this is how you begin to break down. So you build your WBS. So so usually in my own company, what I do, we call these phases. So all of these are phases. Phase 1, initiation and planning. Phase 2, requirement and design. Phase development and configuration. Now, under those phases, you have tasks under them. So under the phase of initiation and planning, we have tasks, this amount of tasks, these 4 tasks. Under the phase of requirement and design, we have all of these tasks under them. So it is the task that you actually, you estimate budget for, basically. So under development and configuration, the same thing is broken down like this. I'm going to send this material to us. You have all of the tasks under it. So basically, under testing and quality assurance, we have a full breakdown of all the activities under it. So now, what did I put there? QA is currently under resource, defect management, so retesting. So, okay. So I'm just putting a statement here that, please, for quality assurance thing, most of the time people don't want to put enough money on that quality assurance. Please, don't fall into that pitfall. Because when you test something properly, it avoids rework. You've seen situations whereby they will tell you there's a recall for cars. Oh, Toyota is recalling this amount of cars. It's because somebody has not done good job on that quality testing. And that's the implication. So you can imagine what it's going to cost you to now recall cars that you have sold. It's always catastrophic. Always catastrophic. So please, one putting that is I need to point that out because please put enough budget for your quality assurance. Is very, very important because it avoids recall or rework. All right. I'm sure we see this a lot. In fact, in this part of the world, when equipment begin to have malfunction and people begin to report it, and agencies are regulatory agents will start talking to the client and they have to start recalling those products. I think I've enjoyed one or twice of some of those things here in in Canada here, my air fryers, I think one other thing again, and they have to give us new ones after we have used it for like 2 years. Even though I wasn't having problem with it, but that product was recalled, and they have to go and submit it back to the client. And they give us a new one. So you can imagine that. Yeah. So please break it down like this, because this is what you're going to use to build your schedule, and this is what you're going to now use to build your cost. So this is me still breaking down all of the major things: deployment and transition, project management. Break all the things. What are the things you are doing under project management? You are the one now, project manager, ongoing project planning, control, progress reporting, status reporting. You're going to document how many meetings are you going to have with the client, how many meetings are you going to have internally on a weekly basis. You have to break it down. I'm going to be having meeting 30 minutes every week. How much is that going to be for 1 year? I'm going to be having 1 hour meeting with the client every week for 1 year. How much that's going to be being? Oh, client is going to be calling me. Client calls, questions here and there. You budget, okay, let me just put like 10 hours or 20 hours for client calls. But those things must be budgeted for, because when they call you and they ask the question and they're spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the phone, it's your time. So you need to plan for those things also. Risk and issue management. That's why I put all this, what I call risk and issue management. You must budget for it. Vendor and procurement management. You are dealing with vendors also, checking their invoices, asking questions, following up with them. There's a time you're going to be using to spend and put that there. Project closure. After the project has closed, we have done work. You are still going to sit down as a project manager to put a lot of things together, do lesson learned. Even though projects, you budget for that also. So please, I'm going to send this to us. Yeah. So, this WS really, really enables you to break things down very well. So from WS to cost, so when you have done your WS, now begin to do the cost estimate. So what I've done ahead is what they call the work packages we have built. We have developed our WBS. So you begin to estimate effort. So all of those tasks that we have broken down, you now begin to estimate effort. I'm going to sit down as we go down the line. So you put the rates. I'll show us that. Document if there are assumptions you made to reach out to reach your what's it called? Your estimate. You put those assumptions down, document them. Okay, let's start. Please give me 5 minutes. I need to kind of quickly ease myself. I'll be back in 5 minutes, please. Just need quickly to just. I know your time is really gone, but we need to. I want to also finish this slide. I don't want to pass it to next week again. I will be back. Just give me